Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Short Debate Show, the show where we discuss every subject in less than 6 or 7 minutes. The main topic of the show today is virtual reality, known as VR. For the people who actually don't know what I'm talking about, the virtual reality is basically a set of devices that is used to get access to a virtual environment, such as VR headsets or VR controller. The first VR headset was created by the American Palmer Luckey in 2009. This device is known as the Oculus Rift. The main purpose of VR is gaming, but VR is currently more and more used for medical purposes or in industry. We will talk about the advantages and the limits of this technology. Let me introduce our guest tonight. Our first guest is Mr. Tran, who is a programmer. Mr. Tran, what do you think about this technology?
Hello everyone. What an interesting topic. So firstly, I have to accept that I'm a techie. However, with virtual reality, I found that it has a lot of drawbacks. The first thing I don't like is the screen. It is placed too close to our eyes. So one of the most important parts of the body will be ruined thanks to this technology. Besides, if people abuse it or don't use it properly and in moderation, they can easily feel discomfort, confusion, even hallucination and illusion. The reason is very simple. It has the same concept as car sickness. Our eyes tell our brain that we are moving while we are not. And everything I mentioned above shows concern physical problems. What about manners? What if a child becomes more aggressive after playing a fighting game? I will take another example. Imagine that you are able to create a world where you can do anything you like. Would you want to live it or stay in it forever? After this technology is widely developed, I think it will definitely have some people immerse themselves in their own virtual world. So that's my point of view.
Very interesting, Mr. Tran. Indeed, this technology and its usage can surely bring some problems. So let me introduce our second guest, Mr. Salihi, who is an expert on this subject and a scientist. Mr. Salihi, what is your opinion on this topic, and do you agree with Mr. Tran?
So hello, it's a pleasure for me to be here today to discuss virtual reality. So Mr. Trent said something really interesting about people not being in touch with reality. In some ways, yeah, this is true, but is it necessarily a bad thing? There are countless examples that demonstrate the opposite. So here, just let me share my screen with you. And we can look, for example, at a study by the University of Washington where 86% of the burn patients reported having severe to excruciating pain during wound care, even after being treated with opioids. To find a way to resolve this problem, the scientists performed a study using virtual reality. A patient had 5 staples removed from burn injury while playing a regular console on Nintendo, and 6 while being immersed in a virtual world. He reported a dramatic reduction in pain in the virtual world. Another patient who had 33% of his body burnt had similar results, showing large pain reduction while being in a virtual world. So indeed, that shows that VR kind of secludes us from the real world, but it has some positive usages, especially in the medical field.
Okay, you talk about how awesome VR can perform in reducing the pain. But have you ever thought that VR can produce more pain than it can reduce? When you wear VR items, you hardly see or feel anything around you. It's like a blind person without his eye gain. What will happen if you touch or step on something dangerous, or you bump into someone while playing? If you're lucky, it will just a small wound or nothing will happen. But what if you are unlucky? You will damage not only yourself but also other people around you.
Well, even if these facts are interesting, we don't have so much time. So let me ask you another question. The question is, do we have some relevant scientific research about VR and its consequences on the brain? Mr. Salehi, do VR headsets affect our brain? And if they do, how do they affect it?
Okay, so as you heard, I work in neurosciences, and there are some researches that involve virtual reality. One of them was conducted in 2014 by UCLA and studied the brain reaction when immersed in virtual reality. It consisted in placing a rat on a treadmill and surrounding him with screens, creating a virtual environment even more immersive than IMAX. Therefore, the rat was only given visual information without sound or odors. The goal of the study was to analyze the brain reaction to that environment. The scientists noticed something special in the hippocampus. If you don't know, the hippocampus is the part of our brain that is involved in creating memories and cognitive maps. When we explore an area, neurons in that part become very active to create these maps. The hippocampus can also estimate distances given odors and sounds. Anyways, in the virtual world, the neuron's activity seemed very random, as if the rat's brain was unable to know its position, even if the rat's behavior seemed normal. The scientists also noticed a 50% drop in neuronal activities. Another result worth noting is in the way that neurons communicate with each other. The neurons essentially have two ways of communication, one based on intensity and one on rhythm. The rhythm-based communication didn't seem to be different in the virtual world, but the intensity one seemed totally disturbed. To summarize, it's true that virtual reality can have some positive effects on our brain, but we have to be conscious and careful with potential and harmful effects like the one I just explained.
Okay, I have to interrupt the debate because we are coming to the end of the show. Maybe a tiny question? If you have to summarize what you know about VR, its advantages and its limits, what would you say?
So unfortunately, virtual reality is still a field where you have a lot to learn, like the neurosciences field, for example. It has a lot of positive usages as well as harmful ones. Here, we barely even brush the surface of what we can say. For example, we can still speak about a lot of things regarding gaming or the medical field or sciences globally, how the virtual reality is used in these fields. For example, we didn't even speak of how virtual reality can be used in the treatment of neuropsychiatric diseases.
So, this was the short debate show. See you next week for another debate in another 6 or 7 minutes. Bye.